Let's fire up Hot Topics with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Megan McCain, and Anna Navarro. Now, let's get things started.
Whoopi is still out, getting better and better, and will be back at the table soon. Yes, she's getting better. R. Kelly just did an explosive interview with Gayle King to defend himself against a slew of sexual abuse allegations, including some with underage women, and accusations he held women against their will. Watch this.
I think the point you're making is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have never held anybody against their will.
I don't need to. Why would I?
Well,
how stupid would
never
it be
held
for
anybody.
R. Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past, to hold somebody? Is this camera on me?
Yes, it's on.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
Robert.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
So, where's Oprah when you need her?
Oh.
In this interview, is this interview going to change anybody's minds, or do you think he did harm to himself with this interview?
I think it hurt him. But first of all, kudos to Gayle King. You mentioned Oprah, but what a good job she did, staying so composed. He was so angry.
She's a great
You were
journalist.
saying he was like kind of a bully in that, and she did not change her demeanor.
And then a victim, if you notice. First he's a bully, then he's crying. It's very big.
You know what I noticed?
And every time he goes like this, there's, you know, he's punching. You can just imagine what a punch from that man would feel like.
Ooh, you know what got me, though, is what I found with people that lie, they oftentimes punt the blame on anything but themselves. So any question that, and Gayle asked him a lot of great ones, it was either the parents' fault, it was the fact that other men have far more women than he does. I mean, the list went on and on and on. It was never him taking the blame for anything or the fact that he did anything wrong in this.
Well, all I kept on thinking was, where is his lawyer? And how could his lawyer allow him to do this? I mean, it was just so shocking. You know, lawyers typically in a courtroom never let a defendant testify, you know, because you have the right not to testify against yourself. And that old adage that anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law, that really is true. I mean, people remember that when Bill Cosby took the deposition, it was held against him in a court of law, and he's now in prison. Does everybody remember the Jerry Sandusky case when Bob Costas gave that interview, and Jerry Sandusky was asked, do you like underage boys? And he was like, I like to be around young people. I mean, that showed up at his trial, and that's all I kept on thinking. It's like, if women get up there, and he has 10 counts of sex abuse against him, if women get up there and testify that he was controlling, that he was angry, that he was aggressive, the prosecutors are going to just put that tape in and say Exhibit A. But, you know, that's what was shocking. Either he went rogue against an attorney's advice, or his attorney should be disbarred.
Well, I remember, Sonny, that he's been to trial before. Remember that he's had allegations like this before in 2008, and he was able to charm his way and spin his way.
He said
and
beat the case.
Get the sympathy on his side before and beat the case.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think he's doing this interview because he thinks he can do that again. But this is a very different time.
Yeah.
It's
well, this is the Me Too era, and you think that matters and means something.
Yes. There's been a real sea change.
First of all, like you said, I mean, he married 15-year-old Aaliyah. Remember the 2008 interview with Teray when Teray asked him, are you into teenage girls? And he said, when you say teenage, how old are we talking? This is 2008.
Yes.
Obviously, my opinion on him was changed as well during the documentary. But again, we know who R. Kelly is. Much like Michael Jackson yesterday, ever since Aaliyah and Teray, I thought he was also a pervert in a lot of different ways. And, you know, the alleged tape that went around, that was happening when I was growing up.
An alleged pervert.
And also, you know, you remember the Chappelle Show joke about it. Like, there were a lot of things about his sexual perversions that were in pop culture. It's just now in the Me Too era, we're looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah.
again, kudos to Gayle King. I mean, I love her anyway, but he was up physically in her space, trying to intimidate her physically as well as yelling.
I know.
I mean, I can't imagine being in that kind of situation. You guys know me. I mean, I probably wouldn't have handled it as
She was
composed.
thoroughly unbothered.
Yes.
Right? She was
Well,
unbothered.
she seems unbothered. That doesn't mean she was.
But you know what? Because you are both lawyers, and so you look at the facts. I'm a very emotional person. I respond based off of emotions and feelings. And if he was hoping to get any sort of sympathy from this interview, I think it did the exact opposite of what he was maybe wanting, because I left there thinking that this guy, first of all, didn't come across well. Something is clearly going on, and also very angry, very angry.
But it's the same people that are bringing girls around him, teenage girls, and hiding up for all his crap for so long are the same people that are allowing him to do this interview. So all the enablers around him. So of course they're like, oh, maybe he'll look good.
There's a thing about him being famous, which we talked about yesterday with Michael. It's the fame part. You know, a lot of these so-called perversion stories are about famous people.
There was another part of the interview that struck me when Gayle asked him about his desire for younger women and being with one woman, more than one woman, and I think we have that clip.
What kind of father, what kind of mother will sell their daughter to a man?
Who did that?
How come it was okay for me to see them until they wasn't getting no money from it? Why would you take your daughter, if I were going to take my daughter and she's 19 years old to a 49-year-old icon, whatever, celebrity or R. Kelly concert or whoever it is, I'm not going to put her on the stage.
You're saying the parents handed their daughters, Azurel and Jocelyn, over to you? Is that what you're saying to us?
Absolutely.
So it was very clever, though. He uses the number 19 right in there. Like, they're bringing their daughters to me. They're 19-year-old daughters.
And the parents are saying that that is not true. If anybody saw the documentary, the parents are saying that Azurel was 17. They have text messages that say that he was having sex with her when she was 17. And he says also in the interview that the two women are living with him and that they're both his girlfriends at the same time, and that she shouldn't, judge him because he knows a lot of men that have many women at the same time.
The documentary, and if you haven't, I urge you to, because I think there's so many lessons in that documentary about the enabling entourages. But one of the things that touched me deeply was the parents. The parents are chasing these women and trying to get a hold of these women and trying to rescue these women all around the country. They never gave up on their daughters. A lot of this is happening and it's been brought to light because those parents had the courage to speak, because his ex-wife had the courage to speak and talk about the horrible things that he allegedly did to her. And so there's a lot of bravery, there's a lot of courage that has come, about in order to get us to where the place he is now.
But the common theme in all of these is what you brought up, Joy, is fame. And fame has this ability to sort of blindside people and make them think it's okay because it's Michael Jackson. If it was some random older age man, you would never let your child sleep in a bed with him, right? But because they are who they are.
Remember the case of Jeffrey Epstein with the 80 underage girls. He wasn't famous. He was just very wealthy with a bunch of enablers.
Well, first of all, I think it's the highest streamed and watched documentary on Lifetime of all time. But what bothers me is he sold out a concert after the documentary aired. So there's still people going to his concert, buying his music, and we have to fight back with our pocketbook. As you always say, stop going to this man's concerts, stop supporting someone who has a sex trafficking ring, which is what I believe after that documentary in his house. Allegedly, my producer, I hear you, but I'm sorry if I believe that. I believe that from the documentary that he is a disgusting person.
You have a legal note now.
I do.
Because of me, I'm sorry.
Chicago prosecutors have charged Kelly with 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. 3 of the 4 alleged victims were underage when the suspected crimes are said to have happened. Kelly has denied the allegations and has pleaded not guilty. I also want to say that the evidence they say they have is DNA evidence. They say they have the victim's testimony, and they also say they have some of the crimes on video. That's a very strong case.
Ever just go, yeah, I did it, I'm guilty?
No,
they all deny.
No, rare.
Okay, coming up, do people believe Michael Cohen over Trump? We'll talk about that next.
Still ahead, Time's Up co-founder Amber Tamblyn and Ricki Lake on being exposed as the Masked Singer.
Welcome back. Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, who we saw on TV last week, is back testifying before Congress again today. And a new Quinnipiac poll, which is a very respected poll, found that more voters believe Cohen than Trump. So you have 50% believe Cohen, 35% believe Trump, and 15% what? Are in a vegetative state? Where are those? Where is that 15%? But I mean,
they're all last name Trump.
Yeah. So they're both liars. Right. One is a redemptive liar, Cohen. The other one is an unabashed liar who has it in his DNA at this point. Trump, he's incapable of telling the truth.
So it's a low bar between the two, you're saying?
Yeah, but I believe that Cohen was telling the truth. I believed him. Didn't you believe him? Did anybody not believe him?
But look, they're both liars, and neither of them are, the most particularly ethical human beings. But true. Cohen has already been caught lying.
Yeah.
In fact, he's going to jail for lying. So if he lies more, he's got something to pay for. He's got something to lose from lying at this point. Whereas Trump does not. Right? Yeah. Trump has gotten away with lying since he was born.
Yes.
The man has lied over 5,000 times as president. He lied about bone spurs. He lied about his records. He lies about his net worth. He cheats at golf. The man is physically incapable of telling the truth. He lies to his wife. I mean,
I liked it how the Republicans were saying, you're a liar to Michael Cohen. He was lying for the liar. Yeah. So didn't they ever put those two things together?
He lied about a lot more than, he worked for many other people than just Trump. And some of the things he was charged for weren't even Trump-related. Another part of this poll that I found interesting, though, was among the same people that they talked to that believe Cohen over Trump, nearly 60% don't think that they believe the president should not be impeached. Yeah. Which I found to be an interesting dynamic.
A lot of Democrats agree with that.
But I think it's something that Democrats should look to. And we talked about this yesterday. If their focus is to get him impeached, I think there are a lot of Americans, not even those that support Trump, that will see through that. If they have a specific target they want to focus on and they think that he really did something illegal, then zone in on that. But if your main goal as a House Democrat is to get him impeached, I really don't think that's a winning strategy. And that poll highlights that more than anything.
A lot of Democrats agree with you. Nancy Pelosi agrees with that.
Well, I certainly think that Michael Cohen must have been telling the truth, because if he testifies under oath and perjures himself, then every time he lies, he could get another 5 years in prison.
Right.
And you can test the lie because it's under oath, and you can just test what he's saying under oath against things he said before under oath. So I'm actually surprised that more than 64% don't believe him, because it just it wouldn't make sense for him to lie. It actually doesn't make sense to me that Trump keeps on lying. 35%
believe that Trump 50% believe Cohen.
Only 50%?
50%.
I thought you said 64%.
No.
Yeah. He's got a bad reputation, though. I mean, for a good reason. It's not like he's a hero.
It doesn't make much sense. But then, if he had a bad reputation, then why would President Trump hire him and believe him? I thought President Trump hired all the best people.
Because he needed somebody to fix the bad things that he was doing.
Yeah.
And pay
somebody
somebody
wrote on Facebook, Trump is so unlucky. He's surrounded by criminals.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Hires all those people.
Okay. Are we taking a break? We're taking a break? Oh, okay. Coming up, what made Colton the Bachelor leap over a fence on this week's episode? We're talking about that next.
You see, he precisely proved the point of what we've been saying about Trump's wall.
What?
People are going to jump over it.
Exactly. Trump would have killed for that wall. He would kill for that
looked like a big, beautiful wall.
So he's really, I mean, this is just acting as far as I'm concerned, but please, elaborate.
No, well, I'm the only one that really religiously watched. I got Megan in it for about an episode, and I lost her.
Abby is the religious one.
If you guys watch The Bachelor, first of all, I don't think you could ever jump over that in just like a normal temperament. He was clearly that angry. Your body can do crazy things. But what's so sad about this is I think...
There's no way my body could get angry enough to jump over that wall. Okay.
I think he was in anger.
Maybe
but he finally found, this Cassie girl finally found the woman who he said, like, I love her.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was the night he was going to finally lose his virginity, which is we've all been waiting. You guys saw him lighting the candles in the fantasy suite.
I don't know if I can wait much longer.
And so that
I don't know how much longer I can wait.
He's physically ready. He's emotionally ready. And it was that night, that moment he's waited his whole life for. She comes to him and says, I can't do this anymore.
How old is he?
What can't she
26,
date?
27.
What can't she
She
do?
says she has
And a
doubts.
football player.
About what?
And her dad came there in Portugal. Her dad came to visit her and said, your parents, your mom, we never had any doubts in our relationship. If you have any doubts at all, just think this through.
She's on a television show. Of course she's going to have doubts.
I know, but there were some real emotion. It's been an emotional week. So many things on television. That was also one of them.
Love can make you do crazy things, okay?
Yeah.
I'll admit, I have broken Manny's phones and put them on and threw them on a highway. I have, Manny has taken our Christmas tree and thrown it out of the door.
Why did you do that?
Because she decorated it too much.
I decorated it too much, and I said some things. I did take some plates. My grandmother told me never to destroy a man's things, but what you should do is take something that you love and break it so that you could show him that you're really crazy and he shouldn't mess with you. So then
you break your own stuff.
You break your own stuff.
That'll keep him around, Sonny.
So I've done that.
She's been with him 20 years.
Let me show you how crazy I really am.
Yeah.
Why you should want to stay with me.
I'm gonna break my own stuff, and then I've done that. But I don't think that was that crazy.
No, as I'm hearing her, I think, first of all, I think she is crazy. But also, like, I think you need to buy some of those kind of plastic, I think you need to buy some cheap plates just to have around for dramatic purposes.
You gotta break stuff you love.
No, Sonny, no. You can fake it. They won't know the difference between, a plate.
You gotta look real
pretend.
nuts because then that keeps
Today,
them
by
in
the way,
line.
before we go, today Lent starts.
Yes.
And I'm going to give up plastics. We'll be right back.
I love that.
Why does Time's Up co-founder Amber Tamblyn say sexism on the 2016 campaign trail didn't start with Donald Trump? It started with Bernie Sanders. She's live on The View next.
Amber Tamblyn and I are pretty much on totally different planets when it comes to almost every political issue, but I am proud to call her a good friend of mine, and I love the bravery and unflinching honesty she brings to her new book, Era of Ignition. Please welcome Amber Tamblyn. Yes. This is a really intense book. And you start the book out by writing about a period of time in your life in your 20s when you say you were going through a crisis, you didn't know who you were, what you were supposed to be. I can certainly relate to that. And now you say you and the country are in an era of ignition, your book title. What does that mean?
So a lot of the book is part memoir. It looks at my life growing up in the entertainment business and the sort of existential crisis that I went through in my 20s, trying to figure out who and what I really wanted to be beyond this idea of an actress, beyond this idea of just being a sort of object that was performing for other people all the time. And while I was going through this, and certainly into my 30s now as well, I've really felt like this crazy state of chaos that we're in that is very scary to everyone, that feels like the foundation of our country is sort of coming up and being shifted and moving, is its own sort of national existential crisis. And I talk a lot about proactive change in the book and how we can all use that to affect greater, better change. And that is sort of the idea of an era of ignition, of not being afraid of the chaos, because the chaos leads to clarity ultimately, and we shouldn't be afraid of it.
We hope.
Yeah.
We hope.
It does, eventually. It just takes some time.
So, Amber, you traveled the country working for Hillary Clinton.
I did, yeah.
And let me read this because in the book.
Yes, while I was pregnant. It was a very, very intense experience to be pregnant, especially with a daughter during the 2016. Yeah, the 2016
But in the book
election.
you say, and I'm quoting you, the deeply misogynist tone that spurred the 2016 election did not begin with Donald Trump. It began with Bernie Sanders. What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that, and I understand too that there were, Russian bots at play. We now know like a lot more than we did before. But I went to, between 2008 even, I think in 2018 in specific, I went to over 25 states. So I met a lot of people. I understood that the tone was about mythologizing her into something that she wasn't. It was not about seeing this woman who was fully capable of leading the country, albeit her many flaws. It was about creating this caricature of what a woman is supposed to be or not supposed to be. And that is totally relatable to any woman, whether you're a conservative, when you're a Democrat, no matter what your job title is, what industry you're in. And I really saw that initial rumbling coming out of those primaries in that moment. That's where I started to feel it. And then Trump started to feel like this secondary tidal wave of cruelty in a certain sense, and it set off a whole other dynamic.
Well, that could happen again if we have a woman president up for election.
Well, I think you're already seeing some of that. I don't think it's a coincidence, the fact that so many women out of the gate are running for president. I think that there are some women here that should be running for president at some point.
Who do you like?
Truly.
Which one do you like?
All of you. Like, I literally think The View should be one collective president. I would love it.
Who are running, who do you like?
I genuinely like all of them, and I think for me, I'm not really interested in endorsing any candidate or picking a specific person.
You like all the women, or you like all the 25 who are?
No, I like all the women. I like all the women, and I'm very much, you know, look. If an amazing conservative woman ran, I would vote Republican. So I am all about women being in positions of power right now. Megan.
No, this is why I love her, because honestly, whenever I needed like Hillary perspective of a hardcore, true Hillary supporter who put her money where her mouth is campaigning, you're the person I go to.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember when we're talking, the book again talks about this idea of working together in intersectional values, which means across party lines, across gender and race and class, and saying, how can we all uplift each other so that there's not just the few of us, and that we're not just standing in a corner saying, well, this is what I believe, and I'm not interested in knowing what you believe. And so much of the power is going to come when we are all working together as hard as we can to change things and meeting each other where we can, because it's our differences that makes each of us unique.
And so much of that is listening to each other.
Yes.
And I bring that up because you're one of the founding members of Time's Up, and you were really one of the first women to publicly share your stories of sexual assault and harassment at a time when you had to go up against many people that didn't believe you. So much has changed just in that short period of time. We talk about these stories all the time, but it still seems difficult for survivors to often be believed. Why is that?
So a bigger connection to that too, I think, even outside of the realm of survivors. I mean, those clips you were just showing of the R. Kelly interview, that should show you enough why survivors might be intimidated to speak out. It's so upsetting. But there's other forms of speaking out. You know, Megan's being able to speak out with this conservative presidency, you even being able to speak out. I think stepping out of our comfort zones and saying, in my gut, I know this is wrong, and in my gut, I know there must be things that we have to all agree on. Not just should, but have to. Like, we don't put children in detention camps. We don't do that. We don't separate children. We don't do that no matter how we feel about anything. We should all agree on that, fundamentally.
Amen.
Let me ask you, in the book, you write a lot about what men need to do differently and what they can do to help in the Me Too era. Tell us what you think that is.
So there's a great section of this book that I really love called The Male Manifesto, which is for anybody, whether it's your boss, someone you work with, your husband, your brother, you know, anybody. But
you might want to send one in big font to Trump.
I don't think Trump can read.
What do you mean? He's great. He's a stable genius. What are you talking about?
Why do you think he's hiding the grades?
I think it's really important for men to be included in this ignited era, in this time that we're living in right now. We can't have the fundamental change that we want for us individually as women without men. We can't. And they are important, and they are valued as much as women are and non-binary people are. And when we talk about inclusivity and equality, they must be part of it. So I bring that in to say that men are honored in the book and talked about it, and I'm giving them real tools as to how to be a part of all of this.
Okay, I hope people will buy your book, because you talk a lot about your personal life, about the abortion that you have, which I think is a very brave thing to do in this time, to put that in a book.
And she also talks about intersectionality and black women being excluded from white feminism. And I thought chapter 15 that discusses that was very brave and very interesting.
So thank you, Amber, for coming by and for writing the book. Her new book is Era of Ignition, is out now. We'll be right back.
Next, Ricki Lake looks back at the most unforgettable moments from the daytime classic, The Ricki Lake Show. Go, Ricki! Go, Ricki! Woo, sorry about that. Tomorrow,
Feed the People reveals fascinating new findings that cannabis could be a wonder drug for treating and maybe even curing cancer. Please welcome Ricki Lake.
while. Nice to see you all.
Well, you know a little something about talk shows.
Just a little.
Right?
Just a little.
Because
Back today, I'm OG.
Well, you are, because you just walked out to the Ricki Lake Show theme music. You all remember the Ricki Lake Show. It premiered 25 years ago.
You all grew up with me.
Right. You were just...
I loved it.
Of all ages, we all did.
Yeah, you were
so
just 25
crazy.
years old.
I was 24 technically when I went on the air, yes.
Wow.
23 when they handed me that job, which was, I had a lot of nerve, I think, back then, you know.
I mean, it aired for 11 seasons.
Yes.
What was
You were
that
natural.
time?
You were
a total
natural.
natural.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was a good listener. I was curious, and I was, you know, because I was like sort of the girl next door. People related to me. They trusted me, and it was a good ride.
Was it a good time in your life?
It was an amazing time in my life. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, looking back, you know, you don't know when you're in it what you know, this responsibility that you have. I just basically would channel Oprah. In the beginning, you know, when they handed me that job, I was like, okay, what would Oprah do? What would Oprah do? And, you know, looking back on it, I really don't think I had much of a point of view, unlike you ladies.
Yeah.
And it's now that I'm in my, you know, I just turned 50. I mean, it's really in my 40s, making my documentaries.
Welcome. So did I.
Thank you, 50.
Happy birthday.
It doesn't suck. Thank you. It's September.
Is there one moment at all? I mean, this is a hard question, but is there anything stands out from that show?
Well, I did like 2,200 hours of television back then. So yeah, there's one. I mean, this anonymous one when the lady got really pissed off and pulled the wig off that lady. I think you might have a clip.
Oh.
I mean, that was classic Ricki. Yeah.
Let's see it. Wait, she pulls the
Wait
wig.
for it.
She
Wait
pull it?
for it. Bam! Oh yeah.
Then what did she do? Oh, now the fight.
She went.
Are they fighting over Amanda? What are they doing?
Yeah.
So Jerry Springer learned a lot from you.
We didn't have. I mean, our show really was. We didn't have a violence like Jerry Springer, and we were real. I mean, the tagline was, "It's got to be real. It's got to be Ricki." And many of your staff used to work on my show. So,
Yes.
Brian. Yes, Brian and Jamie Hammer. Yeah, I know. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, you also just had a good time. You appeared on the hit show The Masked Singer as the Raven.
Yes. Innocuous fun. And they kept saying it was you.
I feel like I'm emotionally involved in this because so many people were asking me if I was the Raven, and I was like, I'm hearing it's Ricki Lake. So, did you have a good time?
I feel like because we have similar curvy body types.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
By the way, it's an honor to be compared to you. And anyway, I'm obsessed with you.
Thank you.
I really, like, for real, I adore you.
She was like, but I can't sing. I can't sing
at all.
So, well, I mean, it was an amazing experience. Who knew that it was going to be such a huge, massive hit?
Yeah.
I had sciatica for the first time in my life during that time, so I couldn't really walk. So I was getting shots in my butt before the show, but it was so much fun to be anonymous and to not have to do hair and makeup.
Yeah.
And
Was it heavy, the costume, or hot?
It was heavy and with the sciatica, but it was also cathartic for me because I got to talk about losing my husband, which was just 2 years ago last month. So for me to kind of pay homage to him in a way, you know, it was really, it was just meaningful and special and silly. And yet, you know, I get to do that and I get to do these documentaries that are really important to me.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance.
Speaking about your husband, he did pass away 2 years ago from suicide and mental illness.
Death by suicide, and he was bipolar, and yet he was my favorite person I've ever known.
Yeah.
And losing him has been such a journey for me. It's been a really, I mean, there's been some dark times for me, and I am in a better place. I mean, I now truly love myself the way he loved me, which is on a whole nother level. So it's just been, and I've recently found new love, and
How would he feel about that, you think?
Oh my gosh, he's 2 thumbs up. I mean, I met this beautiful, amazing man. I mean, it's just like I'm in such a good place, and I had to go through the darkness to get back to the light.
You know what? Thank you so much for speaking about it, because there's such a spike of suicides in this country, and we have to remove the stigma, particularly for those left behind.
Yeah, there's amazing groups like Bring Change to Mind I'm involved with. That's Glenn Close's organization.
Yeah.
We have to change the stigma. 1 in 2 of us is going to suffer from some kind of mental illness during the course of our lifetime. So if it's not me, it's you. And I think starting with young people, you know, it's really important that this is, you know, this is everyone. We need to support here and listen,
You know, Ricki, another thing that we need to talk about, which you address in your new documentary, Weed the People, it focuses on families using cannabis to treat children with cancer. And I have to tell you, going through what I went through last year, I am so angry that there is such a stigma attached to cannabis, to marijuana, to anything having to do with the medical benefits of cannabis oil and marijuana in any way. I mean, even for me, for glioblastoma, the CBD plus TMZ showed an 81% one-year survival. If you added if you added standard oral onto it, 662 days compared with 369 days in the group. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but like, it's a big difference. It's a year difference. For my dad only survived 14 months. So I just want to tell you what you're doing with this. It's really important, and I'm sorry, but it angered me. My dad was sick. There's still such stigma attached. Please take it from here.
Yeah, no, my husband, Christian Evans, this was his passion. He was looking into cannabis use for his own benefit at that time. His grandfather was dying of bone cancer, and at the same time, I was on Dancing with the Stars, and the little girl found me via social media, and she was going through chemotherapy. Yeah, this plant needs to be we need to be deprogrammed about it. You know, it is a human rights issue, and when you follow this film, we follow 5 children through 5.5 years of cancer treatment, and to see the results, it's remarkable. We all need to understand that this is a medicine. And the fact that it was for thousands of years it was a medicine, and only for the last 75 years the government said that it's not. You know, right now it's a Schedule I drug, which is classified as with heroin, that there's no medicinal value.
But it's becoming legal in many states now because they can make money on it.
Absolutely.
Taxation.
Yes.
And we do have a clip of your documentary I want people to see. Let's play that.
Literally 1,000 stars had to align for us to finally change our mind on cannabis. That was the only thing that we just completely dismissed and refused to research because we just thought it was so ridiculous.
We looked at everything else but that.
Here, let me mama. Oh, here we go. I got it.
We just got the call. There's some cell death. The tumor is actually dying in certain areas. There's no new growth, and they said that they would like to be able to take credit for it all, but they just don't know if they can. I'm just thrilled. This is the most amazing news we could have ever gotten. She's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay.
It's just amazing.
Definitely pulls at your heartstrings.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Now, let me ask you this. So right now, only 33 states, plus the District of Columbia, have legalized medical marijuana. So presidential hopefuls Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and Kirsten Gillibrand, they're backing some form of marijuana legalization because there is a distinction between recreational and medical.
Right.
Now, explain to everyone how the current legislation impedes cannabis from being used as treatment for cancer patients. We don't have that much time.
Well, the issue is it's a Schedule I drug, so they can't do the research in this country because of the scheduling. So in places like Israel, which we cover in the film, they're able to pinpoint the particular strain of cannabis that works for the type of cancer. Okay. So this strain works for prostate but not breast cancer. And so we need to deschedule this drug. You know, and yes, recreational is a whole different thing. Our film is not about recreation. This is about access to this medicine that could be helpful both in the side effects of chemotherapy and also for shrinking tumor death.
Is this something we should be talking to our senators and our Congress people about?
Absolutely. We're bringing the film to D.C. very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Our thanks to Ricki Lake. Weed the People is available on various digital platforms. Please check our website for more information, and we'll be right back.
Let's fire up Hot Topics with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Meghan McCain, and Anna Navarro. Now, let's get things started.
Whoopi is still out getting better and better and will be back at the table soon. Yes, she's getting better. R. Kelly just did an explosive interview with Gayle King to defend himself against a slew of sexual abuse allegations, including some with underage women, and accusations he held women against their will. Watch this.
I think the point you're making is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have never held anybody against their will.
I don't need to. Why would I?
Well,
how stupid would it be for R. Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past, to hold somebody? Is this camera on me?
Yes, it's on.
That's stupid. Use your common sense. Robert. I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
So, where's Oprah when you need her? In this interview, is this interview going to change anybody's minds, or do you think he did harm to himself with this interview?
I think it hurt him. But first of all, kudos to Gayle King. You mentioned Oprah, but what a job she did, staying so composed. He was so angry.
He's a great journalist.
You're saying he was like kind of a bully in that, and she did not change her demeanor.
And then a victim, if you notice. First he's a bully, then he's crying. It's very big.
You know what I noticed?
And every time he goes like this, there's, you know, he's punching. You can just imagine what a punch from that man would feel like.
Ooh, you know what got me though is what I found with people that lie, they oftentimes punt the blame on anything but themselves. So any question that, and Gayle asked him a lot of great ones, it was either the parents' fault, it was the fact that other men have far more women than he does. I mean, the list went on and on and on. It was never him taking the blame for anything or the fact that he did anything wrong in this.
Well, all I kept on thinking was, where is his lawyer? And how could his lawyer allow him to do this? I mean, it was just so shocking. You know, lawyers typically in a courtroom never let a defendant testify, you know, because you have the right not to testify against yourself. And that old adage that anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law, that really is true. I mean, people remember that when Bill Cosby took the deposition, it was held against him in a court of law, and he's now in prison. Does everybody remember the Jerry Sandusky case when Bob Costas gave that interview and Jerry Sandusky was asked, do you like underage boys? And he was like, I like to be around young people. I mean, that showed up at his trial. And that's all I kept on thinking. It's like, if women get up there, and he has 10 counts of sex abuse against him, if women get up there and testify that he was controlling, that he was angry, that he was aggressive, the prosecutors are going to just put that tape in and say Exhibit A. That's what was shocking. Either he went rogue against an attorney's advice, or his attorney should be disbarred.
Well, I remember, Sonny, that he's been to trial before. Remember that he's had allegations like this before in 2008, and he was able to charm his way and spin his way.
He said
and
beat the case.
Get the sympathy on his side before and beat the case.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think he's doing this interview because he thinks he can do that again. But this is a very different time.
Yeah.
It's
well, this is the Me Too era, and you think that matters and means something.
Yes. There's been a real sea change.
First of all, like you said, I mean, he married 15-year-old Aaliyah. Remember the 2008 interview with Teray when Teray asked him, are you into teenage girls? And he said, when you say teenage, how old are we talking? This is 2008.
Yes.
Obviously, my opinion on him was changed as well during the documentary. But again, we know who R. Kelly is. Much like Michael Jackson yesterday, ever since Aaliyah and Teray, I thought he was also a pervert in a lot of different ways. And, you know, the alleged tape that went around, that was happening when I was growing up.
And alleged pervert.
And also, you know, you remember the Chappelle Show joke about it. Like, there were a lot of things about his sexual perversions that were in pop culture. It's just now in the Me Too era, we're looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah.
Again, kudos to Gayle King. I mean, I love her anyway, but he was up physically in her space, trying to intimidate her physically as well as yelling.
I know.
I mean, I can't imagine being in that kind of situation. You guys know me. I mean, I probably wouldn't have handled it as
She was
composed.
thoroughly unbothered.
Yes.
Right? She was unbothered.
She seems unbothered. That doesn't mean she was.
But you know what? Because you are both lawyers, and so you look at the facts. I'm a very emotional person. I respond based off of emotions and feelings. And if he was hoping to get any sort of sympathy